Unlimited Life's Potentials, Simple, Powerful and Essential Skills to Develop and Expand, Forgive and Live. Book 1, The Art of Forgiveness. The Essential Guide to Master Your Well-Being. Simple Handbook with Powerful Improvement Capacity. Introduction. I want to thank you and congratulate you for downloading the book. This book contains proven steps and strategies on how to master the art of forgiveness. True forgiveness takes a lot of courage and effort. And even though everyone is capable of forgiveness, not a lot actually realize the importance mastering it and applying. This book teaches a number of life-changing lessons along with simple exercises, tips and meditation techniques to conquer your negative emotions and be the better person you are meant to be. This book will walk you through the step-by-step processes of acknowledging your pains, expressing your negative emotions, getting closure, learning from bad experiences, focusing on empathy, and many more. Thanks again for downloading this book. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1, What is Forgiveness? Overview, Understanding your idea of forgiveness. How everyone forgives unconsciously. What is conscious forgiveness? What is not forgiveness? Resisting the urges to retaliate. The benefits of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a word that everybody knows, but not fully understood. It is something that you can explain in many different ways with different truths. And as obscure as it may be, you should believe that everyone has the capacity to learn forgiveness. In fact, you may already have an idea on what forgiveness is, and perhaps have already successfully forgiven someone. First and foremost, you should know that your idea of forgiveness is correct. Everyone is constantly forgiving. The truth is, everyone knows how to forgive in their own way. If not, some people would be drowning in extreme negative emotions by now. This is because being done wrong by someone else is one of the most common experiences in this world. In fact, there is a big chance that someone or something is getting on your nerves on a frequent basis. Ask yourself these questions. When was the last time I felt angry at someone? When was the last time I was hurt by someone? When was the last time someone lied to me? When was the last time I got disappointed in someone? When was the last time I was belittled/insulted by someone? Believe it or not, you are constantly forgiving a lot of little things that are happening all around you. That moment when someone accidentally stepped on your foot and you just shrugged it off. That's forgiveness. That time when your dog urinated on the carpet and you forgot all about it the next day. That's forgiveness. The last time you were late and chose to make up for it with hard work. You forgave yourself. No matter how tiny the issue is, the moment you move on from one negative emotion caused by another, you're already forgiving. Remember that by moving on, it means you are not storing any negative emotion from the event. To do this, simply smile during these little inconveniences. Forgiveness is almost like a natural response in the body to quickly eliminate negative emotions such as frustration, disappointment, discouragement and so on. It happens almost unconsciously, even without being apologized to. Without this constant mechanism, you would be overflowing with terrible emotions. So if you already know what forgiveness is, then why are you reading this book right now? This is because forgiveness only occurs automatically only for the little things, depending on your threshold for negative emotions. Occasionally, there will be times when you can't just simply let something slide. For things that you find highly tolerable, your mind quickly decides to spare and forget the event in order to save energy. But remember that not all things are easily tolerable. This is when conscious forgiveness becomes necessary. Conscious forgiveness, what happens in your mind? Sure, being offended or done wrong gives you negative vibes. Whenever this occurs, a chain of reactions happens in your brain. This is when a person is presented with choices. One of which is the choice of conscious forgiveness. Forgiveness actually involves a number of cognitive processes that occur in your brain. During interpersonal conflicts or physically hurtful experiences, your brain induces negative emotions such as anger and hate in response. This is usually followed by the urge for revenge, and sometimes a quick retaliation. For example, if someone openly mocked and insulted you in public, you'd normally get the urge to reach out and smack that person in the head. However, as a person reaches a certain level of maturity, a physical retaliation is viewed as uncivilized and makes you automatically worse than the person who's done you wrong. This gives you two choices in addition to conscious forgiveness: either inhibit your negative emotions or come up with a non-physical form of retaliation. Both these choices will definitely cause stress in turn. Note: relieving stress and stress relief methods will be introduced to you later on in this ebook. If you choose to inhibit your negative emotions without actually learning how to let them go, you are causing a great deal of stress on yourself. At first glance, it may feel like it's the right thing to do, but remember that simply hiding your emotions is not conscious forgiveness. To help you understand this more, here are the things that conscious forgiveness is not. Forgetting and pretending that something never happened may be applicable for little things, but not for cases when conscious forgiveness is necessary, negative events that are past your level of tolerance. However, you can still increase your level of tolerance for mistakes and offensive behavior. Reconciliation is not exactly similar to forgiveness. Although there is a strong connection between the two, remember that reconciliation is a different process that requires a different action and commitment. Reconciliation will be explained later in Chapter 6. Your final decision. Forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean you're allowing that person to do the same thing over again. In conscious forgiveness, you need to somehow make it clear that both parties will learn from the experience. Learning will be explained later in Chapter 4, the value of learning. Furthermore, conscious forgiveness is not a one-step process that you need to rush. Now that you know what conscious forgiveness is not, it's time for you to learn what it really is. Later on in this book, you will learn about the crucial steps for forgiveness. Acknowledgement. First of all, it involves acknowledging your inner emotions and pain. Denying them or pretending they do not exist will only make things worse in the long run. Expression. Never forget that these negative emotions are real and normal. Your mind is wired to naturally feel these emotions whenever someone does you wrong, but it is important for you to have an outlet where you can release these emotions in a more productive way. Learning. As stated earlier, forgiveness involves protecting yourself from the same event in the future. This also includes further victimization from continuous wrongs such as being cheated upon, being deceived, and so on. This can be done by making sure both parties learn from the experience. Empathy. Conscious forgiveness involves shifting perspectives and seeing the situation through the eyes of the other. It is a strong virtue that helps build your tolerance for negative emotions. Decision. Sometimes, a significant event calls for conclusive decisions. For example, if you're in a relationship with someone who cheats on you, it may be necessary for you to make tough choices. This is because protecting yourself from further victimization is part of conscious forgiveness. Retaliate or not? It is true that a retaliation, physical or not, offers a certain level of satisfaction and quick stress relief. However, this often leads to a decreased tolerance to negative emotions in the long run. This means the longer you rely on retaliation, the more you are vulnerable to negativity. This may even shape you into a violent person. Though resisting the urge to retaliate is considered as the most mature thing to do, this may lead to a lot of stress in the long run. This can be dangerous to your physical and emotional health. This is why relieving stress is a very important aspect of forgiveness. This is where conscious forgiveness becomes extremely necessary. And quite ironically, this is where it becomes a lot harder. Even though retaliation may seem justified shortly after the event, keep in mind that your logic and decision-making capabilities are blurred when you're angry. Giving in to your anger will usually lead to actions that you'll regret later. This is why the only rule you need to remember about retaliation is never retaliate. Refuse the urges to retaliate as hard as you can. To help you deal with the initial stresses of negative situations, you can try this simple breathing exercise. Go somewhere private where no one can disturb you. Close your eyes and try to remember the most recent positive memory you've had. If you can't provide a memory for the previous step, try to think about something you're currently looking forward to. For example, a scheduled holiday trip, your best friend's birthday, payday, etc. Create a clear image in your head using the thoughts you've produced in steps 2 or 3. Focus hard on these thoughts for the remainder of this breathing exercise. As you do this, begin inhaling through your nose and hold the air in for 3 to 5 seconds. Keep your eyes closed and exhale through your mouth. You may also produce a loud noise as you exhale. Resisting the urge to retaliate is only the first part of forgiveness. Even if you successfully prevented yourself from retaliating, remember that keeping your emotions bottled up inside will make you prone to seeking revenge. Aside from the negative emotions, the desire for revenge is another factor that may prevent you from forgiving someone. In order to fully protect yourself from seeking revenge in the future, you must begin following the steps for conscious forgiveness listed above. All these will be discussed with further details in the succeeding chapters of this book. The benefits of forgiveness. As a final note before learning the steps for forgiveness, here are some of the many benefits of forgiveness. Establishing the habit of forgiving people maintains a healthy heart rate and blood pressure. Forgiving someone for doing you wrong helps greatly in stress management. Forgiveness is known to inhibit the symptoms of emotional problems such as depression and anxiety. The practice of forgiveness is proven by numerous studies to improve a person's physical health. This is due to better sleep, resistance to fatigue, healthy circulation and other positive benefits. Forgiveness allows a person to cultivate productive thoughts and establish a positive outlook in life. Forgiveness enhances a person's creativity through inspiration, motivation and improved focus. Forgiveness improves your integrity as a person. This makes you appear more respectable, approachable and admirable. Forgiveness allows a person to be more open to valuable life lessons. Finally, forgiveness is known to save worthy relationships and friendships when granted to someone deserving. In short, mastering the art of forgiveness is highly beneficial for your health, relationships and your self-image. Being aware of these benefits offers more than enough reason and motivation to abandon seeking revenge and learn conscious forgiveness. Now that you have learned everything you need to know about forgiveness, it's time to take a deep breath and move on to the next chapter for the first step. Chapter 2, Acknowledging Your Pains. Overview. The importance of being honest with yourself. Is an apology necessary for forgiveness? How to accept pains that are just too great. Simple meditation exercise for acceptance. As stated earlier, the acknowledgement of your inner pains and emotions is the first step for forgiveness. This chapter will guide you through the entire process of acknowledgement and acceptance. The importance of being true to yourself. Pretending that you're fine when you're not is bad, but lying to yourself about your own emotions is far worse. Take note that the emotions you feel whenever someone commits a sin against you is only your mind's natural response. You shouldn't be ashamed of simply feeling these emotions. The only thing that should matter right now is that you feel them and you acknowledge that they're real. A broken piece of furniture will not fix itself if you keep on ignoring it. The same goes for your negative emotions. You are feeling them because you are wounded inside, just like the pain you feel with an external wound. It is necessary for you to feel this pain and bleed in order for the wound to heal. Once you become aware of the importance of being true to yourself, you are on your way to becoming a much stronger person inside and out. This will help you establish a positive mindset, which will allow you to take more chances and live more in general. Getting started, the steps for acceptance. Before you can accept the negative emotions lurking deep within you, you should first identify the people who did you wrong in the past. It doesn't matter how long it's been since the event. If you feel like there's still an existing tension between you, consider including that person in your list. From this point on, you will need a personal journal which will help you reflect within yourself and promote creativity out of a bad situation. Believe it or not, putting your thoughts on paper will definitely help the message in sinking in. This journal can be anything you can write on as long as it is kept safe and private. You can opt for a physical notebook or a computer writing software to write your journal on. If you were already writing on the personal journal prior to reading this book, then you can use that instead. Note, a good way to start your journal is to write everything you've learned about forgiveness in Chapter 1. Step 1. Now that you have acquired your personal journal, you can begin writing down about your past pains. First, write down the names of the people you're angry with. You don't necessarily have to follow a particular order when writing them down. Just be sure to leave a space of at least 5 lines between each name to make room for the additional writing you have to do in the next step. Ideally, there should be a maximum of 2 names per page. Once you cannot think of any more names, label this list as Forgiveness List. Step 2. Beginning from the top of the list, write down exactly why you're angry with this person. Also include the negative emotions you feel towards him/her, such as hate, distrust, disdain, disappointment, frustration, and so on. If you're consuming too much time filling up the details for certain people, you can stop there and focus on them first. Step 3. Take a look at the things you've written under each name. If the list of emotions fit your reason, then those are the things you should accept. From this point on, believe that these feelings are real more than anything else. Notice how these emotions are less intense and more analytical. This is because writing them down is one creative outlet for releasing negative emotions. There will be more ways to express the negativity inside you in the next chapter. Is an apology necessary? In the previous exercise, you were instructed in Step 1 to write down the names of the people whom you are angry with. During this first step, a common question is, should I include those who didn't apologize firsthand? A sincere apology does make forgiving easier, but it is not a necessity. Face the facts, not everyone is capable of apologizing after doing something wrong. These particular people are the hardest to forgive. This gives way to the excuse, why would I forgive him when he doesn't even want to be forgiven? If you are wondering about the same question right now, remember that you're not only forgiving him for his sake. You are also doing yourself a great favor. Harboring negative feelings inside you such as anger, hatred or frustration is a heavy burden. First, you are constantly keeping these feelings in check so they don't go out of control. Without releasing them in a productive or creative way, these emotions will accumulate and will eventually find an opportunity for release one way or another, usually in the worst way possible. When you suddenly meet this person somewhere or see his/her picture, these emotions will become more apparent. And in case they repeat the same wrongdoing, it may not be as easy to resist retaliating as before. Other than that, keep in mind that negative emotions take their toll in your body in the form of stress. And as you may already know, stress is a very dangerous company for your inner self. Additionally, forgiving someone without being apologized to is one of the strongest manifestations of self-respect. By doing this, you are also acknowledging that you are far better than a person who would seek revenge or hold a grudge. Your self-established integrity will also make sure that no worldly setback or unfortunate event will faze you. So the short answer is no, an apology is not necessary for forgiveness. Go ahead and include those who didn't apologize to you in your forgiveness list. Accepting your pains will make them hurt less. There are situations where it can be extremely hard to accept your emotions. These situations occur when the fault is very significant and causes you pain each time you think about it. common scenarios include being cheated on in a relationship, living with abusive or neglectful parents, dealing with the loss of a loved one, and so on. These are the situations wherein it may seem easier to ignore these emotions instead of facing them, but remember that by restraining yourself from experiencing these emotions, you will only make them last longer. Remember that no sin is ever too great to be forgiven. And it may take weeks, months, or even years for you to finally find forgiveness in your heart, but your past will certainly not hold you for a lifetime. Simple meditation technique for acceptance. Attaining inner peace should be one of your goals for acceptance. It is something that you can only achieve with total contentment and calmness with the present situation, including your emotions, no matter how bad the situation may be. True inner peace is also one of the keys for achieving emotional freedom. This will be discussed later on in this ebook, but for now, here is a simple meditative exercise to help you with acceptance. Step 1. Find a comfortable place to sit. Ideally, it should be something without back support so you can fully assume the lotus position. It is a common sitting position for meditation that you can do by first assuming the cross-legged sitting position, putting your right foot over your left knee, and then your left foot over your left knee. Make sure the soles of your feet are facing upwards. If this causes discomfort, you can also settle for the cross-legged sitting position. Keep your back straight and make sure your body is in complete alignment. Step 2. Deep breathing. Begin the meditation by deep breathing. Close your eyes and inhale deeply through your nose. Hold your breath in your core, the area covering your chest and your upper stomach, for 3 seconds. As you do this, attain total body awareness by feeling every part of your body. Step 3. Continue breathing. The next step is to release the air slowly. As you exhale, feel all the negative emotions inside you rush out with the air. It is important that you observe and notice every inner thought inside you as you do this. Repeat the deep breathing technique for 5 to 10 minutes. Chapter 3, Expressing Your Emotions. Overview: Why closures is important for forgiveness. Finding your talents and using it to release negativity. Simple ways of redirecting your emotions. Ways of releasing self-blame. After accepting and acknowledging your emotions, you will need to find a way to release them without worsening the situation or being destructive. To do this, you can either get closure or express your emotions through a creative outlet. Learning how to express your emotions is a very important part of forgiveness. This is because expressing your emotions the right way is an essential step in getting protection, to be discussed next chapter. This will also help with the reconciliation process. This chapter is all about getting closure in the best way possible to express your negative emotions. The importance of closures. Obtaining closure has a direct influence on forgiveness. It is an act best described as making peace with your past. Closure naturally comes after acceptance, which should be something you'd have achieved by now. The good news is closures sometimes end with total forgiveness. This is because you can only achieve closure by tying up loose ends, or facing the consequences of your previous hurts. However, this only works if there is absolutely no negative emotion left once you obtain closure. Otherwise, you still need to express these feelings. To obtain closure, you have to accept the unchangeable. The past is not something that you can control. There is no way to reverse the things that caused your negative emotions now. Once you fully realize this, all that's left to do is to have a symbolic release. Symbolic release is a sort of ceremony that cuts the ties between you and your inner pains. It may not wipe away these pains completely, but it is actually a good strategy to start forgiving. In the previous chapter, you were instructed to write down the negative emotions associated with a certain person whom you are angry with. You can consider those written negative emotions as your symbolic ties with that person. All you have to do is to erase all of those emotions one by one. Again, this will not make you forgive that person completely. Consider this as the last step required for acceptance, which will also lead to closure. Note, in the next chapter, you will learn how to find closure for you and the people you're angry with. This is to protect you from being victimized again. Writing. As stated earlier, writing is one of the simpler forms of creativity. It is a good way for you to release your negative emotions whether or not you regard writing as one of your skills. Remember to keep on writing on your personal journal throughout the course of this ebook. Feel free to write about other things other than your forgiveness list. The best thing about keeping your own personal journal is you're making the rules. As long as you're getting a deeper insight about your emotions and as long as you enjoy writing, you'll know you're doing it right. While writing may provide an effective outlet for most people, you should also use your negative energy to fuel your other skills and talents. Using your talents. Every person in this world has his or her own set of unique skills and talents. Even if you're not good with popular talents such as singing, dancing, painting, writing, or sports, it is still guaranteed that you have an ability you can use for creativity or productivity. Passion is a gift that every person possesses. It is the seed that, with a little effort, can turn into a truly enjoyable talent. It can be absolutely anything like knitting, cooking, gaming, or even bodybuilding. Anything can be a talent. The truth is, it doesn't even matter if other people don't normally consider your passion as talent. A talent is just something you're good at, that's it. As long as you're directing your energy to do something productive and as long as you're passionate about what you do. Also remember that a talent isn't necessarily something you are born with. In fact, discovering a new talent for yourself offers you more joy and fulfillment than focusing only on innate skills and abilities. Realizing this simple truth should open up a new world of possibilities when it comes to finding your creative or productive outlet. Redirecting your emotions. Remember that your emotions occur both in your mind and body. They are often cultivated from a physiological sensation, or attributed to what's going on in your mind. When someone gives you a kiss, you feel elated from your lips to your inner thoughts. When you hear a bad news, you feel a physical chilling sensation in your body as your mind drowns in fear or dismay. However, you should remember that emotions are not mere reactions to real-world circumstances. Since they are cultivated in your mind, you can learn to control them and redirect them to a productive activity. There are many ways for you to learn how to control your emotions. Two of the most popular techniques are relabeling and diffusion. Relabeling emotions is the simpler of the two. As the name suggests, you simply need to tone down the emotion by relabeling it with something less intense. You may even completely label an emotion with a positive one. For example, when you're chasing a deadline, a common emotion would be fear of missing it accompanied with pressure. Fear is an intense emotion that can affect your quality of work and performance. Since fear and pressure both cause restlessness and increased energy, you can label them in your mind as something completely different, like excitement or eagerness. This way, you can obtain relief from a tremendous load of pressure. Diffusion, on the other hand, takes the emotion for what it is. This may seem a little unorthodox the first time you hear about it, but it is actually very effective in releasing negative energy. Remember that the physical energy in your body is directly related to your emotional energy. Through diffusion, you are using your negative emotions to fuel a physical activity. In other words, you need to voluntarily perform a physical activity such as jogging, stretching, squeezing a stress ball, or dancing to relieve the negative energy caused by your intense emotions. An important thing to remember when using diffusion to relieve your negative emotions is to make sure you're not being destructive as you engage in more physical activity. This is crucial since it is easy to go overboard when physically releasing negativity, especially when performing high-intensity activities such as boxing, weightlifting, and so on. This may even cause physical injuries if you're not careful. If you can, stick only to low-intensity activities such as stretching, walking, and cycling. These should give you enough emotional release to feel uplifted while preventing you to release energy in the form of rage. Dealing with self-blame. In life, there could be nothing crueler than the feeling of self-blame. Severe negative emotions may lead you to a state of confusion, especially if someone whom you deeply care for has caused you considerable pain. These situations can make you feel unable to put the blame on that person despite what he or she did to your feelings. In turn, you focus on your shortcomings and imperfections instead. For example, did your ex cheat on you because you did something wrong, or were you just not good enough? Did your parents neglect or abuse you because you're a disappointment? Self-blame gets worse as you begin to accumulate negative feelings towards yourself. This can be described as an extreme feeling of guilt which makes you lose self-respect, self-confidence and self-love. Take note that in learning forgiveness, you should also know how to forgive yourself. While acknowledgement of your own mistakes can be a productive virtue, hating yourself because of these imperfections is self-destructive. The first thing you should realize in order to free yourself from self-blame is that no one is perfect. Yes, you've probably heard that many times before. Keep in mind that imperfections define who a person really is. No one in this world can live without making mistakes or being inefficient every once in a while. It is ideal for people to seek constant improvement and progress, not to live a perfect life. You will find more lessons on how to express self-love and self-forgiveness later on in this ebook. Chapter 4, The Value of Learning. Overview: Why should you get closure for both parties? Using I statements and communication tools. Forgiving your ex, finding closure for romantic relationships. In Chapter 2, it is stated that an apology is not really necessary for forgiveness. However, there are certain situations wherein you're constantly forgiving a person for doing the same wrong against you over and over again. As time goes by, it gets harder and harder for you to quietly forgive this person and just release your negative emotions. The third step of conscious forgiveness is learning from the entire experience. This is imperative for gaining protection for future victimization by the same person and for the same reason. This also involves getting closure for both parties involved in the event in addition to learning from it. Remember that every person can learn something from any bad situation. The only path in life is progress, and the only real failure is being unable to learn from past experiences. Knowing this will make you have a positive view in most anything. This chapter is all about learning and preventing the person you're angry with from doing the same thing over again, which can be done in a few simple ways. Getting closure for both parties. In the previous chapter, the importance of closures and how to use symbolic release were discussed. However, those methods were only aimed to help you obtain closure for yourself. While it may help you in forgiving, it doesn't protect you from being victimized sometime again in the future. Getting closure for both parties is very important for ongoing personal relationships. This includes your relationship with your spouse, child, parents, sibling, close friend, and so on. This is because you still care for the relationship and want to have a better future with them. However, in life, it is quite common to have people close to you who are constantly doing something that may be hurtful, insulting, or abusive. And simply getting closure for yourself and quietly forgiving them each time will never solve the problem. For example, your parents constantly use abusive words towards you. Although you care for them deeply and forgive them each time they do it, how will you enjoy a positive relationship with them if you keep on allowing this to happen? Yes, you may build your tolerance in time if you keep forgiving them silently. However, it's still an entirely different atmosphere to be in relationships where members cultivate positivity amongst each other. Also remember that you want to get closure for both parties because you care. Getting closure, opening up. The key for obtaining closure for both parties is communication. Communication solves most, if not all, relationship problems. No matter how severe the problem is or how difficult it is to forgive, relationships worth saving will always triumph through trials with communication. Depending on your relationship with this person, you can either talk to them face to face or communicate with them indirectly using tools such as letters, emails, etc. Being vocal. Having a vocal confrontation with a person almost automatically establishes a sense of urgency and sincerity. This is because you are granting both of you real-time participation, which can resolve most relationship problems once the confrontation ends. A phone call may also count as being vocal depending on the quality of the conversation. The first thing you need to do is to set the time when you want to have the conversation. Just be wary of the following: the time. First of all, be considerate of the schedule of the other party. It is rude to suddenly bring up the topic without fair warning, which may worsen the problem at hand. It should be at a time when both of you are not preoccupied with important matters such as work, school, business, etc. Your emotional readiness. Sometimes, it is best to let some time pass before talking about a conflict. This is because your emotional stability is questionable when the wounds are still fresh. Believe it or not, your emotions may get in the way of the confrontation. To make sure this doesn't happen, wait until you are positive that you can keep your emotions in check. The place. Lastly, make sure that both of you are in the appropriate place for discussing sensitive issues. Naturally, a confrontation shouldn't be done in a public place. Never forget to value the privacy of your relationship. Also, remember to employ a certain level of maturity when trying to communicate physically with other people. Make sure your approach doesn't look as if you're trying to start a fight. No matter how intense your negative feelings may be towards this person, make sure to be polite when trying to start a conversation. Using I statements. The use of I statements is a very effective way of resolving interpersonal conflicts by pointing out each existing issue one by one. These are completely structured sentences that begin with the word I or use it as the main subject. By using I statements, you are pointing out exactly what the other person is doing while taking responsibility for the way you feel. I statements are widely used for settling disputes in team-building activities and resolving conflicts in relationships. This time, you are giving both parties the opportunity to develop mutual understanding and learn more about each other's feelings. This may be exactly what you need to truly forgive someone. Here are examples of I statements. I feel terrible when you call me useless. I feel extremely lonely when you just walk away from me like that. When you grab my arm, I feel threatened. When you ignore me, I feel unappreciated. The best thing about I statements is that they get straight to the point. It will help the other person understand how you feel without the pressure of being directly accused of something bad. Also, remember to be open to what the other party has to say. One of the purposes of having face-to-face conversations is to learn more about each other. Opening your mouth and closing your ears will make the confrontation one-sided, which will give way for more conflict instead of fixing previous ones. Using communication tools. In terms of resolving interpersonal conflicts, a face-to-face conversation beats using communication tools. However, there are some advantages of using communication tools to get closure. Also, not everyone is comfortable or capable of having face-to-face confrontations about sensitive issues even with people whom they've known for a very long time. Using communication tools may also be used if you feel like you can't control your emotions if you'd talk about the topic face-to-face. This is why some people resort to texts, notes, letters and emails to find closure. An advantage of using communication tools is that you can easily provide complete details about how you feel to the other party. This will help him or her understand you a little more. Depending on the context, using communication tools may also resolve interpersonal conflicts quicker. The only significant downside of using communication tools as opposed to a physical confrontation is the inability of the receiver to quickly respond, especially for long messages. In other words, they will be compelled to read and understand the entire message first before making their point. It is entirely up to you if you want to have a physical confrontation or use a communication tool when opening up. If you're better with using spoken words to express your feelings, then you should go for a face-to-face confrontation. If not, then you might be a little more comfortable in sending a message. The most important thing is that both parties fully understand each other's feelings. Even if the other party cannot change immediately, at least now he or she knows how you feel. And once you see even the slightest ounce of effort to change, it will be much easier to forgive that person now. Closure for romantic relationships. Contrary to popular belief, obtaining closure for both parties may not help at all for breakups in romantic relationships. Why? Because most people tend to think that leaving out some details about the breakup is the right thing to do. However, this makes it even harder to forgive since you can't identify the exact reasons for the breakup. The truth is a lot of people are concerned about their self-image after breaking up with someone. They may be embarrassed about the fact that they cheated, lied, or hurt someone needlessly by breaking up with them. A lot of people may even offer friendship in place of the broken relationship, which usually never works. Some even say that they simply do not want to cause too much pain when in truth, it is actually the cruelest way to break up with someone. While it may be true that forgiveness is not really necessary to get over an ex, it will definitely make it easier for you to move on. Remember that bitterness is also a form of negative emotion. Holding on to negative emotions after a breakup is just as good as holding on to the broken relationship itself. In case you find it difficult to forgive an ex because there is no closure, you can rely on obtaining closure for yourself by using the following methods. Depend on what you already know. Sometimes, forgiveness and moving on is difficult because you tend to make up scenarios in your mind with no real evidence. For example, assuming that an ex cheated with someone is a common scenario a lot of people tend to come up with. If this is the case for you, know that your desire to validate your suspicions will prevent you from achieving inner peace. Stick only to the confirmed facts, from what your ex clearly stated, and not on baseless assumptions. Seek to improve. Sometimes, the reasons behind the breakup are apparent. For example, you may have a drinking problem, an abusive behavior, or a tendency to become distant. If this is the case, all you have to do is to acknowledge these mistakes and learn from them. This doesn't mean you should try to get back together with your ex. Instead, you should choose to work on these negative qualities out of self-respect. Get clean. It's hard to forgive and find closure in a breakup if there are things around you that remind you of the past. Though there is no real way to quickly erase the memories of the past, you can cope much easier by throwing/giving away everything related to your ex. You should also delete all the photos and video recordings of your relationship from your devices, personal computer, smartphone, camcorder, etc. Finally, remember that it is never too late to forgive. If you still have bitter memories about previous relationships, then now would be a good time to start forgiving. Chapter 5, The Role of Empathy. Overview, the true essence of empathy. Meditation for empathy. Empathy is a virtue that makes forgiveness a whole lot easier. It is described as the ability to recognize and understand the perspectives and emotions of other people. Empathy requires great compassion and the openness to see the world through the eyes of another. This chapter discusses the importance of empathy in forgiveness as well as simple methods on how to develop your empathy. The true meaning of empathy. The first rule of empathy is to acknowledge other people as your equal. In no point in time should you consider yourself superior or inferior to a fellow human being. This should be practiced without regard to your social status, the size of your bank account, the level of education you've attained, your nationality, and so on. With this in mind, you should also be able to connect with their emotions. Remember that everyone is exactly the same as you. Whatever other people do, they do it for a reason, just like you. In case they've done you wrong, there is still a reason. Of course, even if you identify this reason, there's no guarantee that you'd fully understand it. This is because people have choices, and these choices are the only things that make everyone different. Another person may choose to do something hurtful to others while you may not. However, true empathy is manifested by accepting the reasons of others even if it contradicts your own. Your choices are yours, and the choices of others are none of your business. All you can do is to accept what you see through their eyes, and it will be easier for you to forgive. Unless if this person is in an ongoing close relationship with you, then you may need to find closure for the both of you. See previous chapter. Empathy builds tolerance to negative emotions. Building your empathy is an effective way to increase your tolerance to negative emotions. By reducing the accumulation of negative emotions, you will definitely find it a lot easier to forgive. Meditation for empathy. Here is a simple meditation exercise you can do to train your empathy. Step 1. Begin breathing. The first step of this meditation exercise is similar to steps 1 to 3 in the meditation technique for acceptance found in chapter 2. Simply resume deep breathing and try to clear your mind of any malevolent thoughts. Remember to close your eyes the moment you achieve the sensation of peace. Focus on relaxation and then move on to the next step. Step 2. Visualize 3 people. For this next step, you'll need to visualize 3 different people. The first one should be someone very dear to you. It can be your best friend, spouse, sibling, and so on. The second one should be someone you're currently having problems with. The last person should be a random person whom you're never really close with. Step 3. Associate. One by one, try to remember the way these people behaved when you met. Try to share their emotions by being happy when they laugh, being angry when they frown, etc. In other words, pretend that their emotions are your own. It may take a few minutes before you genuinely feel synchronized with each other. Step 4. Empathize. Next, try to recall the things they had said in your visualizations. Afterwards, try to connect their emotions with the things they just said. For example, your best friend is frowning because he recently got fired. Realize that you would react the same way as they did if you were in their shoes. Try to continue this exercise for as much as you like with different people in mind. The next time someone does you wrong, think about this: would you have reacted differently if you were in their place? If not, then it is easier for you to tolerate their transgression, but if the answer is yes, move on to the next chapter. Chapter 6, Your Final Decision. Overview, Reconciliation. Moving on from here. Congratulations for reaching the last chapter of this ebook. This final chapter contains a simple exercise that's all about the final phase of forgiveness, the act of reconciliation. Reconciliation. Reconciliation is best described as renewing a positive relationship with someone. It involves discarding the bad memories of the past and giving a broken relationship another chance. Everyone deserves a second chance. The same is true once you fully understand forgiveness. In fact, a second chance is not enough. As long as your heart is strong enough to forgive, you can grant anyone a third, fourth, or even fifth chance. Never lose hope in the ability of one person to change for good. However, it is important not to give those chances without first analyzing what's changed, what's been learned, and when the reconciliation will take place. While reconciliation is the last act of true forgiveness, you should not trade your pride for it. As the last exercise of this ebook, you will need to bring out your forgiveness list again to see if there's anyone willing to reconcile with you. Of course, it should be easy for you to identify these people. However, if you can't find someone, maybe you should take the initiative and attempt to reconcile with them. Fortunately, Today's world is the best era for reconciliation. Thanks to social media networks. Social media websites such as Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus are the best places to look for anyone you've ever known. Starting right now, begin registering the people in your forgiveness list to your social media account. Of course, it may take a while before these people would accept your invitation. In the end, you will find out that life is absolutely better without the negative ties of the past. Life is too short to keep negative relationships. To find joy in touching the lives of other people and creating memories worth celebrating, that is the purpose of life.